Are you on the edge of your seat? Because we're about to sound off with Kevin Williams, covering today's latest trends in location-based entertainment. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire. All right, everyone, let's buckle up.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to Sound Off with Kevin Williams. This is number 109 for February 10th, 2026. Almost at that 110 mark. We got to do something, maybe. I don't know for that. I don't know why 110 feels like we did 100, but I don't know why 110 feels special for some reason. Maybe it's just the round number.
It's the round number that tickles it.
All right. Well, Kevin, how are you going to change my mind today?
Well, there's been a lot going on in the entertainment sector regarding the facility business, and I'm just kind of in a reflective mood, but I'm also wondering if the industry can actually see the changes and the trends that we're charting. And I'm wondering if we have reached or even passed an inflection point in our industry that has left many behind without them knowing. You know, the dinosaur doesn't know he's dead until his brain tells him finally up the trunk of the tree. And we are at that point where an inflection has taken place. There is a major change in the way that our audience is consuming entertainment, dealing with our operation. And those companies that are not going to be able to pivot are going to find out about it this year. And this could be quite a major change in our business structure.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that we are at least at or very quickly reaching that inflection point this year. I think what will be interesting is the vestigial, like, long tail that will still drag out, right? So like Blockbuster may have realized 5 years before their final store. I mean, there's, their penultimate store, because I know we had the one that stayed open forever, but their penultimate store closed down. But it was this long, but they may have known that, but it took many, many years still for the reality to truly set in and truly impact their business model, where they just had to close their doors because they still just couldn't get out of their way. It was too late to make the change. The things had moved already so far past them. So while I do think that we maybe will find some brands reckoning that they have reached this inflection point and they maybe missed it. But I think it'll take a number of years for some of them to drag on under their old business model without making the necessary changes.
That inflection point is usually recognized by the C-suite management, who usually jump ship early and take the good deals with them, leaving it for the follow-up management structure to pick up the pieces. We have an example of this with what's happened with GameStop, where many people saw the retail bricks and mortar physical games sale business had passed that inflection point. And I'm just wondering if we are at that point in location-based entertainment. But we can go into that in more detail as we see more indicators of this.
Perfect. All right. Well, coming up after a quick break, we will dive right into the trends. Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon.
Well, straight into the trends in the economy, and an indicator of the failures in the bricks and mortar physical game sale business in the video game side of the consumer side of the business is the latest nail in the coffin for the game franchise in the UK. This used to be a 200, 300 retail unit business. It went through quite a problematic few years. It got acquired by the House of Fraser, and now the last of its standalone facilities are being closed, sadly with the loss of staff, leaving a patchwork of attached facilities, i.e. Retail units within or existing department stores and malls to remain, and I expect those to be expunged in the next couple of months. But this is the kind of the mirror picture to what we're seeing happening with GameStop in North America as well as in Australia.
Yeah. I mean, unless GameStop pulls some sort of rabbit out of the hat to completely flip their business model, which I don't see happening, they are going to go the same way as Game.
If they can pull a rabbit out the hat, then A, it's going to be copied by everybody. So it will definitely be a multiplying rabbit. But B, it would be an amazing pivot in the current face of the oncoming steam train that they're facing. But hey, nothing's impossible. At the Disney Investors Board meeting and call, they went through the structure of their business. They explained a little bit of where their future thinking is amongst their successful ticket sales during the 2025 period or season, as it were. They then turned around in the middle of this call and they avoided mentioning one thing, which we're going to touch upon in a minute, but they then turned around and stated that they're expecting to see quite a major impact on ticket sales for all of their tourist-related business, as the US tourist scene will be going through a major upheaval and a drop-off in numbers. This is the canary in the coal mine moment for the tourist business in the USA.
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to talk about the next major, the next announcement, so maybe I'll hold off on that one. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting given this news what their subsequent announcement was.
Yes, and well, the big story was surprise. We told you so. No,
or we hope so anyway. We hope so.
So we indicated it when we were talking about Lucasfilms and the changes there, and we were sort of saying that it was going to be obviously a domino moment, and that domino happened a lot faster than people thought. Number one, during the investors' call, it was a surprise that no mention was made of the process to start finding or selecting, because usually you have the prosper. Let's say it. The individual anointed by the top management then presented to the board of directors, who go through an interview process. We didn't see that with Chapek, and we definitely have not seen Josh go through this process. Josh comes from a parks background, but he also was CFO within their brand and entertainment division. He was actually head of their experience operation at Walt Disney Company. He has a great pedigree, and I feel is a very interesting pick for what needs to be done with Disney going forward. It's just the process in which this happened, where Mr. Eisner came in and then was replaced by Iger in a boardroom process that was full of controversy, but also was a regulated process. Chapek came in kind of in a hurry, and now to see Iger leave before his December end, as it were, kind of feels rushed. And there was a lot of speculation on why this was rushed. Is there, some skeleton in the cupboard about upcoming announcements and developments? Was it pressure from the board? Was this, as we were saying previously, the dominoes falling after the Kathleen Kennedy departure? Either way, Josh now comes in with at speed. And with an interesting situation in front of him. Hopefully the C-suite team that he will bring in, his supporters will go through the books and go through the structure of the company and find it in a position that he can drive forward to success? Or are we going to be faced with, in a couple of weeks' time, a shock horror moment or a surprise that there was a hole in one of the particular businesses that we weren't made aware of? There still seems to be a little bit of the sword of Damocles hanging over the remainder of Bob Iger's tenure, which will end at the end of this month. Just as an example for our audience that's watching this podcast rather than falling asleep with it, I kind of indicate underneath the period of when the CEOs have taken control and charge of Disney or the Walt Disney Company, and I've also indicated underneath them the major acquisitions that they took hold of during their tenure. And if you look at Bob Iger's Marvel, Lucas, and Fox acquisitions against Michael Eisner's Miramax, ESPN, Zone ABC, Muppets or Henson Group, Pixar, you kind of understand the monster that has been created on top of the Walt Disney group. And then if you go back to the investors call, you suddenly find out that the majority or a large percentage of the business is coming from the Disney Plus and the parks division, which also includes the cruise lines, kind of tells you how much those acquisitions helped the operation. And I'm sure one of the things that Josh is going to have to undertake coming on board is trying to slap the film operation back into touch so it equalizes its input into the operation, because that stock number is a bumpy ride at the moment. It is a peak that you wouldn't want to ski down.
Yeah, certainly wouldn't want to ski down that peak, but or at least not me anyway. I would say the other really interesting thing, yes, Josh was made the CEO, but then they also appointed Dana Walden as president and chief creative officer, and she'll be leading all of their content, right? So she'll be leading Disney Plus and Hulu and potentially any other future brand IP content acquisitions. I could see Bluey being a big acquisition potentially for them at some point here. I've been waiting for that one for a long time anyway, but since they're a major distributor and partner of Bluey, I can see that happen and would obviously have a big impact on potential LBE. But the fact that they've really going to be a pair working together to hopefully drive better alignment between what's happening in the parks and what's happening in their content. Can we get back to the basics of what Disney was good at?
It's kind of what Michael Eisner had with his colleague that sadly was taken from us. They were going to be a double act where the financial, the structure, and the operation could be handled by the content and the direction. It is what was needed. Many people have complained that we've gone through a period of dictatorship, as it were, in the direction of the Disney company. This will have major ramifications, not just across the theme park sector, not just across the film and IP sector, but the global entertainment market. And it will be fascinating to see how Josh starts out the gate. He's running, but which direction is he going to run in? Moving on, and we have another major shakeup, lost by many in the hurly-burly of the Disney announcement. But after 6 years, David at Chuck E. Cheese or CEC Entertainment stepped down. Most of us found out the hard way through a LinkedIn announcement. And it was then a mad scramble, and I think some media services and some people haven't even caught up on this yet. I noticed when we ran the story when it was fresh that it's one of the largest hits that we ever had regarding this kind of inside baseball announcement. The issues are fascinating here, and there's so many unknowns that we don't know. Number one, did David jump or was he pushed? from the sources that we're speaking to, it does sound like it was a surprise and fast-moving situation, encouraged by the board, that his replacement, Scott, is coming in with only a few years under the belt of working for CEC, and interestingly enough, an executive that comes from a GameStop background. He is currently their CFO and now will be dropped directly into the CEC position, the top chair position, with a number of things under his belt. It is understandable that there is a concern. Please don't look at those stock numbers too closely. Remember that our friends at CEC Entertainment removed themselves from the stock market when they went through their Chapter 11. They are meant to have come back at the end of last year, and that still hasn't happened yet. Again, maybe part of what is going forwards with the new change in management and focus will have something to do with this. There's also some speculation about, did he jump or was he pushed? And the one thing that we've seen David do is a number of quite strident moves. He's been very forceful in pushing the brand of Chuck E. Cheese back into success. Worked incredibly hard after the Chapter 11 to get the company back into contention and strength and moving forwards. We've seen a number of experiments and investments. We've seen the Chuck's Arcade development. We have seen the Chuck's World, eventual world component. And then it was pointed out to me by someone in one of our forums, there was also the contention over the fun pack membership system and how well that was executed, as well as questions about other of the way that the guest experience and the pay for play elements were being managed. And it is interesting to see that the new incumbent in the CEO role comes from a strong financial positioning rather than a creative positioning. I personally wish that CEC would consider having someone driving the business and someone driving the experience, especially with some of the faux pas that have been made over the period in what they've done regarding branding against what they've done for actual value for entertainment.
Yeah, I think what we really need here at CEC is that dual partnership, like we've got with Josh and we've got with Dana over at the Disney company. And this would really, I think, impact their future growth and opportunities here. David had he had immense park and theme park background through his time at Six Flags, almost 14 years there. And then even before that in DC Comics. And so he had lots and lots of time within the attractions industry. Scott, on the other hand, has fuck all time in the attractions industry other than his 1+ years as the CFO of CEC Entertainment after coming from Farmer Brothers, after coming from GameStop, which are not, two really strong accolades in your resume necessarily, given given GameStop's current issues here. And so for him to come in, lead the helm of arguably what was a string of hits to some extent, and obviously some missteps and mistakes along the way. I agree with you in the membership scheme issues around CEC. I talked about those quite a bit, the LBX show and sound offs over the years. But really good, solid hits and growth over David's time as CEO coming out of bankruptcy. And I am a little bit concerned about the new leadership and the fact that it was done, at least externally, so relatively quickly that they may have not even, I'm just surprised that they didn't maybe set Scott as an interim CEO. And while they maybe did a search, and it could end up being Scott, right? But go and do a formal search. But obviously, as a private company, not a public company, this could have been done, behind closed doors, very quietly. And so that is, I think, will be an issue for them going forward. I hope not. Hope Scott proves us all wrong. But I do think somebody needs to be focused on their experience while somebody can be focused on operations and content and media partnerships and growth.
You will see this as a common recurring pattern during the next few months when I'm talking about replacements and restructurings. The question always has to be asked, not who benefits, but who is driving the entertainment offering, because we are an entertainment industry. And if you don't have experience in that, you can't fake it. Look what happened to Dave & Buster's. So again, the C-suite. So even if Scott doesn't have the skill set to understand the entertainment, he can surround himself with a C-suite. And I'm hoping that the term business development director is one that will return again to the arguments. A lot of the stuff that I do as a consultant would be called in another time business consultancy, business direction consultancy, because the first job that went in 2008 was the business development director when there was the purge of staff, when there was a cutback on financing, and the CEOs usually turned around and said, hey, I can do that. You know, I've got my finger on the pulse. I understand the industry, when really it's one thing to steer a company, but it's another one to be able to understand the trends and the directions and the player experience. As we saw with Michael Eisner during his tutelage at Disney, he understood it for a period of time, and then when he didn't, he didn't. Moving forward, our friends at Topgolf, major partnership with Miral, and they're going to be opening what I would call a flagship Topgolf location here. You know, Abu Dhabi is an affluent area already. Dropping this in, it's going to have to be high quality. It's going into an area that has quite a consistent amount of entertainment. And surprise, surprise, for the first time ever, in recent memory anyway, we now hear alongside the 82 hitting bays, they're going to have VR golf sim bays included. Now, I'm not sure how much of this is the franchisee applying the thumb screws to the team at Topgolf to make sure that they get the max out of their social entertainment offering from this particular facility. It does look a very high level facilities it would need to be for this particular demographic of audience. But I'm wondering if this is the beginning of the future rollouts of Topgolf facilities, including those magic phrases, VR golf sim bays.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, okay. Like this kind of stuff can go into Dubai and Abu Dhabi and, you know, the UAE in general, and you know, do okay even if it's half empty, because they just have the ability to do that, right? The question for me is actually, the VR golf sim bays. Is this VR or is this Topgolf swing suites? This is not VR. This is just what they're calling VR. Okay, all right. So it's a golf sim bay, but not a VR golf sim bay necessarily. Okay.
So what's happened is the PR team have spun it the way they felt it was necessary for their audience, and they called them VR sim bays.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
We still don't know if they are swing suite bays. So I would have a heart attack if they weren't. But it is interesting that this is the first time in quite some time that we've seen a Topgolf new facility in development that actually includes sim bays.
Yeah.
We'll watch this with interest. And it's that Genda moment. It's that Genda moment that I promised. So are you sitting down? Have you got a stiff drink in front of you? Because you're going to need it. Here is, for your delectation, a list of all the companies that the Magic Genda Group has acquired in our sector over the last 8 years. 60 operations. Some of those operations are peripheral to our entertainment industry, such as in the karaoke sector or in the sports dart sector, but many of those are operations and names that are familiar to us and we've touched upon. Well, that is an unwieldy mess, and it's going to need some wrangling. And so we have the announcement now of separational groups, which I touched upon previously, that we are now going to see the creation of umbrella groups under the Genda Entertainment Group brands that will now take control of certain aspects of that 60 plus operational org chart, as it were. The first one is GeiGo Edge, which will be handling what I like to call their competitive socializing entry, what they call their nighttime entertainment or nightlife entertainment, their billiards, their poker division. I wonder how many of you knew that they had a poker chain facility business. They have darts. I'm not sure if this darts system is linked to the Sega Live Darts platform that they have association with. But anyway, this is going to be a competitive socializing focused operation, kind of pointing to the trend that we've seen in the international market for competitive socializing. And for all those companies that keep on claiming it's a flash in the pan, this is going to be a very uncomfortable moment to admit that this is happening. The next is GeiGo Solutions, and this feels to me very much like a distributor. This is an operation that is going to control over 1,000 mini locations. So those are the KidCade kind of facilities, the Gashipo, the Claw, the retail size units. Internationally, not yet, but Japan focus, as well as acting as a equipment and maintenance operation for the whole group.
So just real quick to clarify, this does not mean then like the Kittleton locations here in the US or in other parts. This is just right now the consolidation of the 1,000 locations in Japan?
Correct.
Okay.
We are waiting to hear about the GeiGo Solutions international operation that will deal with the Chinese, Vietnamese, and European and American operations. But at the moment, the die is being cast regarding the structural changes. There will be another shoe dropping soon regarding their other business, but this is the beginning and the momentum continues. Moving on, and we're celebrating the 55th anniversary of Taito's entertainment division, Taito Station, both in the Taito F and the mini Taito Station facilities are well known in the Japanese market. They have over 160 of these venues. They are a mainstay of the amusement side of the business, even though most of them are crane heavy or UFO machine heavy. They still have a very strong amusement component. They're very eye-catching. They're front and center within the Japanese market, and they seem to be going from strength to strength at the moment. But they also have some strong competition, and I think the slides beforehand kind of points to that competition.
Yeah. I think that's an understatement, but look, I'm sure Taito has their brand loyalists and the ones who prefer a Taito Station, for example, over maybe going into a GeiGo. So, you've got your blue and you've got your red competing against each other.
Yeah, and we have some other colors in that mix, but it is interesting that we're marking the 55th anniversary at this point. Will they continue along this path is very dependent if they understand that inflection point, maybe. Talking of inflection points, and our friends at Dave & Buster's have been trying to right the ship of state, trying to talk to their core audience, trying to get back into profitability. They announced that they're doing the big game experience, which is you pay $30 for the pleasure of a dedicated seat and discounted food to watch whatever big game is taking place. Obviously, the Super Bowl is one of those big games that is coming up with the FIFA football, with the Winter Olympics. I am sure that they're going to try and leverage off of the sports. At the same time, they announced that they were going to be doing a special Valentine's package where one of the claw machines in each of these facilities running this experience would have a diamond ring hidden within it, and you may be the lucky person to pull it out of the machine. Talk about blackmail. The issue I'm having here is it doesn't smack of a focused business plan for their target audience. It kind of feels like trying to come up with a number of discount deals that are going to attract. Again, we're waiting to see the Dave & Buster's marketing and the promotion associated with movies, which they were known for. And we're also hoping to see some more clarification on their numbers and how well their current business plans are rectifying the hole that was created by the previous management.
Yeah, this is interesting too, that they've chosen to partner with Fever for this. So Fever is actually the platform in which you will purchase the tickets in advance. And they have clarified you need to purchase the tickets in advance specifically for the Super Bowl. It does come with unlimited wings, your traditional or boneless wings. So you can eat as many wings as you want all day long. Unlimited games as well, and then premium seating. So you do have unlimited all-day arcade play. Obviously, that's not going to include merchandisers, but for you're not going to get to play for free to get the ring. But you've got all-you-can-eat wings, guaranteed premium seating. They say all for the fair price of $24.99. So it's really interesting to see how this succeeds, but also very strange that they are doing it through Fever, given the fact that they do have booking capabilities for their social bays.
They had.
Well, okay, fair. That is true. They had, but that doesn't mean, that technology infrastructure should still be sitting there, underneath the hood that they just need to activate and turn on. I think here, this is one of those where Fever is making a big play. I wouldn't be surprised if actually somebody at Fever went to Dave & Buster's and proposed this and not the other way around, as Fever is really trying to be the driver of big experiences like we talked about on the LBX show a few weeks back.
Fever wants to be Ticketmaster.
Mm-hmm. For experiences, yep.
Yeah, Ticketmaster for experiences, and they also want their own facilities. And Fever and Genda getting together, and I'll leave the industry and become a monk, I think, at that point in time. This is an interesting play, pardon the pun, but if it doesn't work, it will be very obvious that it didn't work. And we've just talked about the problems that Chuck E. Cheese went through with their membership scheme. This is a membership scheme through the back door. And we still haven't heard anything about what Dave & Buster's did with their social play concept. And we still haven't heard of what Dave & Buster's is doing with its social bay concept. And we haven't, there's still a lot of unknowns that will need to be admitted to when we see their next numbers. And those numbers are going to need to encourage the markets, because at the moment, that is an equally frightening ski run of a stock outing. And if you haven't checked those numbers, that is a concern.
Yeah, that was like the chart. No, the chart speaks for itself. So if you're listening to this, it's not pretty. So you can go and check out the stock, and see the stock trend, and it's not a pretty thing.
And we are not encouraging anyone to follow our advice on buying or selling stock numbers. We're just using public source data to prove the points that we have been making for over 100 episodes so far. Carrying on, and our friends at Boxpark, not a million miles away from where I'm sitting right now, they have admitted to the markets that they're now assessing a new format or an alternative format to their existing style. So the Boxparks are known for, container units huddled together into a structure, utilizing multiple food providers as well as a hospitality component. A few months ago, over a year ago, they entered into developing their Playbox concept, which is their social entertainment concept. And now the company has also had to admit that it's been seeing increased losses in its traditional business. And so now they're thinking very strongly of pivoting more towards offering a competitive socializing element, as well as a live hospitality performance component to their venue model to increase their revenue. Very telling of what's going on within the Boxpark operation.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have maybe an identity struggle here because when I watch they have some videos playing, so you can go check out boxpark.co.uk to see the video. I'm not going to put it up here now, but they even in their live entertainment choices, they're trying to do things that appeal to kids and families, and then they're also doing nightclub things. And not that you can't have both of those things coexist. But it definitely, when I watch this, I'm like, is this for my families, or am I going to go and watch a couple of, take my kids to, not that this matters, but watch some trans people dance on stage. And, am I even going to know what I'm going to get when I walk in the door, I guess is my point. And that is not exactly what you want when you are trying to attract a particular audience, both on either end of the spectrum. So I think this is the identity crisis that they need to solve. And while they're at it, they might as well pick a new tagline that doesn't exactly mirror Dave and Buster's.
Yeah, it would be good. Their inflection point, as it were, is they need to work out what they want to be and how they're going to move forwards with that. I sat in the test Playbox location here in London and just watched for a period 2 hours of what their audience was and of the 20 people that were in the space that could easily handle 100. Only one of their shuffleboards was activated. None of their karaoke was in use. Their arcade was a desert. And the darts were both being played, both bays of the darts, and one group watching the football on the TVs. Now, if you take that as a dot average, it kind of points towards you've got a problem with your competitive socializing concept even before you try to use it to sort out the hole that exists in your Boxpark entertainment, Boxpark hospitality venue. But we'll do a little bit more research into that, and I think in the next couple of months we'll have to address what's going to go forwards with this concept. We touched upon this in Open and Shuts. The cinema entertainment sector comes in 3 fruity flavors. There is the traditional cinema layout that we all know, the AMC approach. Then there is the VIP cinema experience that can include dining and hospitality. And then there's the cinetainment model. And the cinetainment model seems to be one that at least offers a secondary and tertiary business revenue stream, and so can help you out of difficult times. Our friends at Look Dine-in Cinema sit in the middle grounds. They only offer the VIP seating and food approach, and they have gone through chapter protection regarding their business. And they have started a purge. And of their 7 sites, they've just announced that they will be closing 3 of those down in California. I feel very strongly, as I said in the Open and Shut, that these guys needed to have embraced competitive socializing, or at least some level of entertainment to support what they were trying to do with their food offering. They may not have the space or the capability to do that, so that kind of also points towards the difficulty that they find themselves in. But this is a point where they now have to have their inflection about what they're going to do moving forwards to save the remaining 3 or 4 facilities.
Yeah, these guys, as I mentioned on Open and Shut, they had a location in downtown Chandler, which is about 15 minutes from me here. And I mean, it was a beautiful facility that they built, almost a ground up facility, beautiful inside. Massive bar, but so much empty space in the lobby area that could have been utilized for, as you said, any sort of competitive socializing or entertainment or even amusement components. And they did completely nothing. Is so much empty, wasted space. And every time that I went in, which was rarely for a movie, frankly, because there's a closer dine-in cinema for me that I prefer. But when I would go in there for different events that were hosted, it was the people in the event and then very few people walking in to see the movie. So I think, it was potentially the location, potentially their model, but certainly the lack of mixed entertainment inside a space that really could have utilized it.
The cinema sector has fought tooth and nail to try and ignore cinetainment as a future opportunity for them. I understand why some of them don't want to admit that they need saving. The drowning man analogy comes to mind. But what I would point to now is the more that we see these top end VIP style cinema experiences hitting the wall, the more that the reality of business is going to face them, or they will be superseded. We have the Evos out there that are doing the business. We have other examples of the cinetainment approach that is generating revenue. You can't hide from the rec rooms of this industry. You're going to actually have to work out what your entertainment offering is beyond trying to add a stake to your cinema experience. Oh, wow.
This is the location in Chandler for those of you listening, and you can see as it pans to the right how much space there absolutely was underutilized that could have absolutely been any other form of
Dave and Buster's in there.
Yeah, it could almost fit. Exactly. So that is, I think, one of their core issues and then they were right downtown Chandler, which was a prime location, so high rent. So when you're talking about revenue per square foot, you already are struggling in the cinema industry, and then you have all that other square footage with significant underutilization, and I think that is what has been driving this their current issues.
Dwell time. I don't want to read too much into what's been happening at Look Dine-in because they've gone through quite a difficult financial situation, but I keep on getting the feeling that maybe the hospitality heads rather than the entertainment heads had driven a lot of the initiative behind this, but that's just a personal opinion. Moving on, and another element we touched upon in Open and Shut was our friends at F1 and how they're doubling down on their bricks and mortar components. They closed down for a period of time their Las Vegas facility, refitted it, expanded it, and now 100,000 square foot of racing experience, simulators, go-kart course under F1 Drive, an exhibition and an active entertainment component, all supported by merch, all supported by F&B. This is, for me, F1 meets Netflix House, similar size of venue, similar kind of audience. What our friends at F1 are using these venues for, though, especially this Las Vegas site, is that it is part of their when the circus comes to town and they have the F1 races there, this space is actually used as a VIP location as well as a social entertainment for some of the events and parties that go around it. But as a standalone, they've taken the original concept, brushed it down, relaunched it now, and we're presented with quite an impressive entertainment venue, a transmedia sports entertainment facility, you'd catch me saying.
Yes, of course. Yeah, truly transmedia, and they've done a beautiful job, at least what we can tell here. I'm looking forward to we're going to need an extra day, I think, out in Vegas after Amusement Expo to go and see the number of new venues that we just have opened in the last year since we were out there together. And so looking forward to checking this one out for sure. While I personally am not a massive F1 fan, I obviously am a fan of what they've been doing in the entertainment space, and so want to definitely check out what they are doing. And yeah, it looks like just a phenomenal, built, beautiful facility.
The retail component, the entertainment component, the hospitality component, all very important glues. Just for clarification, the simulator sector there, the F1 hub, I think they called it, or F1X.
F1X, yeah.
Yeah, F1X is not F1 Arcade. There is already an F1 Arcade in Las Vegas, and they are different parts of the tree. Moving on, and our friends at Lucky Strike Entertainment revealed some of their numbers for us during the period of entering into February, and we get to see that their revenue has increased by 2%. That we also see that they have seen an increase by 0.3 in sales per venue across their 360 sites. And that they have now increased or are continuing to increase the upscaling or the rolling out of new venues, as well as their existing venues receiving a rebranding and being brought up to the standard that they're pushing forward. I wouldn't be surprised that we'll see the last of the Bolero sites either being marginalized or turned into Lucky Strike facilities. That said, positive numbers if you read the top paragraph of any press release, but when you dig into the minutiae, which is sadly my job, 0.3 is not the type of thing that I'm going to be jumping up and down and shouting from the hilltops over. I am also not going to be shouting too loudly that it is 2.3% increase. Compared to when some of the other companies around me are seeing slightly larger increases. Now, how much of that is due to the retraining and the restructuring and the changes in the market? And, the list of excuses go on for some time. But also how much of this is what they are offering is not being accepted by an audience that has a much wider selection of opportunities. The new openings, they've opened in January 5 brand new Lucky Strike facilities, and all of them are brought up to the boutique bowling and amusement and FEC model that we've been seeing from the new openings. But I still wonder about all of those other venues that are still showing their age.
Absolutely. I mean, you cannot go on the type of acquisition spree that they have gone on, especially buying up older locations, and then be able to still leverage capital to deploy against the locations, especially when your same store revenue is, growth is so completely anemic. And really, this is the first time in how many years now at this point? We could look back, but certainly over the last 2 years, the first year that there's actually been an increase in same store sales versus a significant multiple percentage decrease. So I don't think this is a good positive sign. They're not out of the weeds yet. It's easy to drive top line revenue increases when you continue to buy new locations. So that is the mask that they have been continually putting over the top of their organization for many, many years to show that top line growth for their stock, for their board and their shareholders. And this is, this may be hopefully a trend upward for them to increase their same store revenue. It also could be a flash in the pan.
So for those people listening, how would you describe the ski run in front of us here?
Mowgli. We'll call it Mowgli.
Black snow all round. No,
yeah.
The issue is, if you feel that you can just buy your way out by getting another facility or opening another facility and try and ignore the overall prospects that you're offering, it will catch you in the long run. And maybe this is now the time where it's going to catch. 0.3 to me is difficult to sell as a positive. Just for the audience that's watching this, I whipped out the Taurus again and I created a shotgun, just so you can kind of see the clustering of where these companies that we've been talking about sit within the Taurus or the Venn diagram that I've created that tries to define our sector and its future opportunities. And you can kind of see the companies that have been seeing a little bit of problem have been pushed out to some of the marginal areas of the Taurus compared to the companies that are transmediafying themselves and are going for the central components. Obviously Disney is the spider in the middle of the layer here, with interest in the cruise line and parks and location-based entertainment and cinema and everything. But also it is interesting to see really where the Genda edge kind of operation would sit if you were adding them to this Taurus, as well as the positioning of Chuck E. Cheese, which I would say is finding themselves also being pushed to the marginalization because of that lack of repositioning themselves. Though that said, if they open more of their Chuck's adventure world, then they would be pushed more towards the resort kind of targeting. But again, this is just a snapshot of the type of data that I'm playing with at the moment.
Yeah, excellent. All right, well, coming up after the quick break, we will continue with some more trends. Power up your game floor with Arcades by Alan One. Whether it's perfectly pouring drinks in Dr. Pepper Soda Slam, grabbing official Butts on Things plushies, or defending cities from attack and missile command recharge, Alan One has something for every venue and arcade floor that will delight your guests. Each game is also enhanced with Major League Esports, a free app that tracks player top scores and brings guests back to your venue for more. Visit allen-one.com to learn more. That's allen-one.com.
Thank you, Alan One. And into the tech trends, not too many this time around. Some clarification. Our friends at Sally sent the bouncers round, and after they finished pummeling me, I would like to confirm that the Nickelodeon Play Dark Ride attraction has been developed by Sally, and it is incorporating their shooting and interactive trackless-based system that fits into quite a compact space compared to other kinds of dark ride attractions, with specialist content created based on SpongeBob. It's interesting to see how many more venues are going to go through the process of adding this kind of mid-scale attraction to their mix to be able to handle their audience. I know that the Sally order book is quite packed at the moment, but also the company works very closely with very high-level IPs. During IALPA, they were making the announcement of their latest installations based on some very popular IP.
Yeah. Got a chance to go on this in Vegas. I don't know if it's the exact same experience, but it was very well done. I really enjoyed it. And, good to see that they're getting some additional play out of it, not to, pun intended.
Yes. From the Universal point of view, it may be a package that when you go for the Nickelodeon Play, you also get access to this type of high quality, large throughput attraction that can eat up your audience numbers quite nicely in a venue like this. Big announcement from our friends at Zero Latency. Their Arena VR experience operation is going to be adding their 11th title to the list of games that they have. And again, it's another IP and it's another big movie name here, Jumanji. It's interesting to see this particular game being parachuted into the Zero Latency 8-player game experience based upon its history, but I'll touch upon that in a minute.
Well, look, I guess Zero Latency is potentially a better partner for the Jumanji, the Jumanji brand and IP than Hollowgate. So I don't know. We'll see, because Sony has partnered obviously with Hollowgate for their Ghostbusters franchise. Just surprised to see, well, there we are, that they went with Zero Latency for this next round of IP.
As I zoomed in as Brandon jumps into what we were going to talk about is now we have to dedicate part of this session to IP and Sony's previous, here we have a movie operation, Sony Pictures wanting to see their film properties get their transmedia time in the sun. They did this first with Ghostbusters quite heavily. They partnered with the original Void, and then they partnered with Hologate, and then they partnered with Immersive Gamebox, each one of those offering a different opportunity for that IP to be presented. And they did the same with Jumanji. They partnered with the original Void, and then they partnered with the salvage of Void to ensure that they could have the Jumanji VR experience put into their Wonderverse. And it is interesting, a matter of weeks after the announcement of the closure of Wonderverse and the termination of all of that, we then now see another VR interpretation of Jumanji being developed with zero latency. I've reached out to Zero Latency to ask if any of the previous elements from the VR Jumanji experience are going to be incorporated into theirs. I haven't heard back from them yet. It is interesting to see how Sony's going to sort of move forwards from the Wonderverse Black Eye, and how they're going to try and ensure that they have a presence in location-based entertainment. And this kind of partnership allows them to keep relevant, though again, I am sure it isn't coming free to Zero Latency, and that they're going to have to pay quite a considerable license fee to utilize such a well-known IP.
Yeah, and maybe in the interim, while Sony figures out what to do with their LBE experiences, this is the Netflix path, right? So we saw Netflix partner with Sandbox VR on a number of VR-driven experiences, and while they were developing their own Netflix house, and so this could be Sony just saying, "Hey, look, we want to keep this IP relevant and out there in the world while we figure out what the hell we're going to do next for LBE."
I agree. I think it allows them to keep a toe in the water without having to make direct decisions. They're going to have a place in this sector. There's no middle ground. There's no sitting on the sides. It's just how they do that. Are they going to compete with Netflix House, or are they going to go into another direction? These are the decisions they need to make, as well as the technology is evolving and changing. We're going from, the backpack VR cumbersome helmet that was used in the Void in 2014. 2018, 2020 is not the same type of technology that Zero Latency are employing in their facilities, and it's much more of an organic virtual experience. Mm-hmm. I would be interested to find out how successful the Immersive Gamebox application of Ghostbusters was for them, but again, we'll get more information as the year moves on. Another IP from our industry, now getting fame for the mobile sector, Apple Arcade. I always drove me mad when Apple announced that was the name of their game portal, but Apple Arcade is now going to add real arcade machines, or interpretations of real arcade machines, to them with Retrocade. God, their marketing team must have stayed up all night to come up with that name. And they are going to include playable versions of Galaga and Pac-Man and Space Invaders and Asteroids and other classic games that can be played through your iPad or your iPhone or your Mac or even on your Apple TV. So I'm going to have to go up to our Apple TV at home and kick it and see if I can have a quick game of Breakout on it. Either way, this is yet again an example of all of our lovely amusement properties and retro gold being used by someone else. This is the arcade one-up moment now through the giant that is Apple. It drives me mad that our industry doesn't manage the utilization of our IP better, but hey, I'm just a voice in the wilderness, as it were.
Yeah, and I do wonder how much Apple paid for this, or if this was the other way around, right? If this was,
Uh,
these groups coming to Apple and looking for greater distribution. I can't imagine though that Arcade One Up is super excited about this news because now why have a
they
physical
got
model?
bigger fish to fry now they've been acquired.
Yeah, well, that's fair. And maybe this is one of the reasons why they're moving into home-based claw machines, which I still find odd. But
Yeah.
anyway, I don't understand that one. But anyway, I can't imagine that this was at least welcome news for them.
I'm sure this was just one of the many nails in their proverbial coffin, and that they needed to reposition themselves. They had their inflection moment many years ago and they ignored it. And that led us to the situation that we find the newly acquired Arcade One Up operation. And remember, the new buyers of that didn't buy all of the operation. I'm not even sure if they still offer the claw machines. I'll need to go off and check after this. What we are looking at is cheddar on the table that isn't ours. This is the amusement industry's history. This is at least an opportunity for our trade associations to put a logo in the corner saying sponsored by the arcade industry or whatever, to show that these are reputable recreations of our past history's gold. You don't see Matchbox making recreations of the Mustang from the 1960s without Ford's logo on the bottom of the vehicle and on the branding. I just feel that we're missing an opportunity, and we will really come to see the lost time and opportunity with just throwing these games out there as something that you can play on a mobile game and that's it, and don't come to the arcade and play the real thing kind of approach. But again, that's my rant over, as it were. As we touched upon previously, we've had the confirmation of our slot, what we're presenting. We're going to be going into the depths of the competitive socializing sector at Amusement Expo in March. A month away, time is flying. There is the possibility of some further news about LBX involvement regarding Amusement Expo. I'm not going to go into that until the I's have been dotted and the T's have been crossed, but it looks like it's going to be a fun couple of days in Vegas for us, especially as we're going to have to take some time off to visit all the new venues. And then also we have in June, which is rushing also towards us at high speed, the Augmented World Expo that is going to have its LBE XR component. If you're in the XR space in location-based sector and you're not part of this, then you only have yourselves to blame for missing out. Anyway, please come around, beat me up like others are doing on LinkedIn for my inaccuracies and with information on changes and developments. We have some new Stinger reports out. We have soon to have some entertainment social arenas out there, and all that goodness. But that's it from me, Brandon. Was it boring enough for you this week?
No, not at all. It was a great conversations and so much movement happening, especially at the C-suite level at a number of these significant transmedia organizations that we need to be keeping an eye on. So thanks for everything you do as always, Kevin. And we will see you on the next Sound Off.
Have a good one.